welcome to everybody. It's great to have you here. I know it's a bit late in many parts of the world. Well, this is the one time we could make it work for people in India, Russia, Australia, and Mexico. So we're real happy that there are people that join that are in other places, as I'm hearing from our Telegram chat. And well, I'd like to welcome our guest, Aishwary. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you guys?
All good here. Well, actually, let me. I don't want to be butchering your name throughout the call. So, would you mind just letting me know how should I pronounce it?
Yeah, that's right. Aishwary is correct.
Okay, perfect. And well, from the Bonded Finance team, you have me as well. I'm the content manager for Bonded. We have Brian here, who is our CTO. He's logged in the Bonded Finance account, and we have Konstantin, who is our marketing manager. So, welcome all of you. And Aishwari, just to get things rolling, man. Would you like to speak a bit about your role in Polygon and yeah, about
Absolutely.
how you get in touch with us?
Absolutely. So basically, if I talk about myself, I have been working with the DeFi team in Polygon, and our role has been basically to help all the projects that are coming on Polygon. Maybe they're a new project, maybe they're blue chips or anyone, whatever they are coming in. So we help them to get all the support that is required. We and then cross marketing, helping each project within our ecosystem to benefit from the already existing platforms which we have, or already existing dapps, or already existing uh, applications that have been built on a platform. That is something that we also do. Apart from that, the marketing, the strategy, the go to collaborations and everything, that is something that I look at in Polygon.
All right, great. And well, since I noticed that there must be a couple people that must not be from the bonded community, but maybe they join from Aishwarya's side or join from somewhere else. Brian, would you also like to introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown of bonded?
Sure, yes. So I'm Brian. I'm the CTO at Bonded Finance. So we are, what can I say? We're building and very, very soon to release our first release of our primary lending platform. I'll describe very quickly what Bonded Finance is. It's in a nutshell, it is a lending platform, but we've got a market differentiator whereby we accept collateral types of a whole different set of collateral types, and particularly smaller altcoins that don't have the opportunity to deploy their capital in other areas in the DeFi realm. Most of the other lending platforms, they have a fairly limited set of popular collateral types that can, or popular coins that can be used as collateral types.
As Brian said, we are building like we're trying to build the next generation of a lending platform, including cross-chain features and a bit of others, such as like the USB stablecoin platform. And well, the main goal right now for us is to launch our mainnet, yeah, on the Ethereum blockchain, and then hopefully move it around other chains and try and make it compatible with as many as possible. So yeah, if you think there's something that we didn't cover for the intro of Bonded.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that our first release is really a core to our platform. And from there, we will be able to extend upon all of the roadmap that we have in mind, which includes support for cross-chain support in various ways. And we can talk more about that later. But we certainly are exploring the various chains and the various protocols and the various tools to allow us to integrate cross-chain for various aspects of our platform. But again, we'll talk more about that later. And our first product will be our core release, and that will form a solid foundation for us to extend upon that per our roadmap.
I'd like to ask Aishwary to get the ball rolling, sort of like now that we have finished with the intros. Obviously, you come here representing like the most popular and the most effective scalability solution right now. I know that Polygon doesn't like to be called a layer two, and well, rightfully so. Uh, how do you feel about the other scalability solutions that are currently in the market?
I think scalability is one of the most important thing that is required. And if I talk about Ethereum, Ethereum is so there is something called a blockchain trilemma that we always talk about, and Ethereum is in that trilemma because of the scalability issue. Now, when that is something which is available at that point of time, and in order to ensure that the decentralization is maintained, then we have to go out and we have to provide scalability to Ethereum, and that is where layer twos come into the picture. And a lot of layer 2s have been deployed today. I would not say Polygon has been just the only one being deployed as one of its component being a layer 2, working as a layer 2 or a side chain or a plasma layer. But there are other solutions as well. What other layer 2 solutions, I cannot name any of them, but definitely what is happening with all the layer 2s is they're very new in the market. And Polygon on the other side has established itself in the past 2 3 years. And now when we talk about the kind of applications, the kind of things that are running on Polygon, the I would say we have more than 3,000 dApps which have already been deployed on Polygon network. So that is no more something where what you have is just like a new ecosystem coming to the picture. And all the growth that we are having from the last 3 years is purely organic. We haven't gone out into things which would just inorganically increase our growth, make us like pop out in the world just like on one day, and on the other day fall out in the market. So that is something which is very important, and that is something which you can see in the number of users that we have. We have the number of users which are actively available, which are increasing day by day for the past 3 months. If you will see that we have onboarded more and more users onto Polygon. And we the way this is happening with other chains, what is happening is there is a lot of rewards that these chains came up with. And because these rewards are something where what will happen is if you have high rewards, there is going to be a lot of liquidity moving there. But as soon as the rewards dry up, or as soon as the rewards reduce, all these members or all these users that actually have gone there will actually go out and retreat to the places where they were already from. So that is something which I have been seeing from a lot of layer twos. If you'll see a recent report that was sent out by Delphi Capital, they also highlighted this, that most of the users that are going to other layer twos are basically because of the high yielding farms that they have. And once those farms stop giving out those hefty rewards, mostly most of the people just leave that farm and go to another farm, which might be on that chain or maybe somewhere else. So that's a nature which is happening with other layer twos.
Yeah, just gonna ask Brian, do you have anything to comment about all that? Because I reckon like some insights from Aishwary that are very interesting.
Yes, you're quite right. Yield farming certainly does initially attract users to a platform, and then the trick is then always how to retain users onto that platform. You're quite right. You mentioned there were several hundred apps or DeFi solutions on Polygon at the moment. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Are they primarily ported from the Ethereum ecosystem, or are there any Polygon specific apps that have come to light there?
I think if we talk about Polygon, I would say we do not have just like one. Our functionality or the way that we are operating is no more just a layer 2 solution. The things that we have already integrated and the future that we are looking at is we are trying to bring the whole finance world or the enterprise world which is there on the Polygon ecosystem. Now, when we talk about decentralized finance system that is already evolving, we have a robust team that is looking out into it, deriving perspectives. If you'll see the perspectives that are there, they are created by Polygon, and then they are when they go out and when they become successful, they are usually copied by other chains. This is something which I've usually seen in other chains as well. If you see liquidity mining, which was initiated, I think in the month of May June by Polygon, when we announced $150 million for liquidity mining, that was us that created that kind of buzz and everything. And later on, now the other chains, if you'll see, they are just trying to copy it, and they're trying to repeat what we did in the month of May and June. So that's like 7 months before we've already done that. Now, the next things that we are focusing on is, along with the robust ecosystem that we've already developed, to nurture that and also get into a lot of enterprises, build those enterprise solutions. And that is why we announced like $1 billion for the zero knowledge proof solutions that we want. We acquired three solutions: Hermes, Maiden, and Polygon Nightfall is also in the building. So we have a robust set of zero knowledge proof solutions as well, which are a very big necessity for the enterprise solutions to onboard a public blockchain. So that is where we are now creating that narrative. And then when we talk about other layer twos, those other layer twos are basically focused on just one thing, which is like deploying more applications on them. But the problem with that is you have to develop a whole ecosystem. You cannot just have a platform where you just keep on deploying farms. No, you have to have the whole DeFi arena in order to go out and develop all the things. You have to have games, you have to have NFTs, you have to have the whole metaverse going into it, the whole DeFi world. It's not just about just having a lending and a borrowing protocol. It's about how that lending and borrowing protocol can merge with 10 different protocols which are already existing in that ecosystem, so that they all can grow. One thing can be used to in another, and they are composable in a nature where they don't have dApp does not have to build itself again and again, and they can just usually adapt the good things in others and build on it.
Yes, I think that's a really important point, that composability and the extensibility. The various solutions in each of these platforms, or in more generally the broad DeFi space, act as composable items so that they can be used and interoperated between these various systems, so that not just the core value proposition of a foundation platform can be used in and of itself, as you mentioned there, just a lending platform, but then that becomes part of a larger orchestrated solution that will evolve over time and incorporate NFTs and borrowing and insurance and so forth. You're quite right. So this is early days, and it's going to be very interesting to see the way the various core components of the DeFi landscape are going to be composed into very interesting complex solutions, or
Exactly.
multi-component solutions.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah, Brian is well. Both of you are really talking here about building primitives that can be used composably throughout the whole DeFi ecosystem, and I really echo that. That's what's most needed right now. We need systems that can go from being an innovation to being a base layer that's sort of invisible. Um, Aishwary mentioned something very interesting to me, at least, and that's the recent developments that Polygon has made towards the zero knowledge realm. Zero knowledge is one of like the spaces that are most funded on our industry, and for a good reason. Um, of course, the crypto part of cryptocurrency sometimes gets forgotten, but in reality, the next big step for these systems, I'd say, is just to infuse them with native privacy. So yeah, Ishwari, would you like to talk a bit more about all these developments by Polygon, since they are so recent and so timely?
Absolutely. So when we talk about the solutions that we are building in the zero knowledge proof arena or the privacy arena, one thing in a very simple format, if I want to tell the audience what exactly this is. So if you talk about zero knowledge proof, I'll just give you a very simple analogy, which is known as the cave door analogy. Now there are two. Let's say I and you, we both are standing outside a cave, and there's a door inside a cave which is locked. Now I know the password, but and in order to make sure or make you believe that I know the password, there are two ways. The first way is basically where you go out and where I basically get inside the car, inside the cave, unlock the door, come from the other side, and make prove you that hey, I know the password. The other is telling you the password directly. What public chains today do is telling the passwords directly, where your data is completely public. The other way, which is zero knowledge proof, is where I went inside that cave. I unlocked that door. I came out from the other side and I just proved to you that, yeah, I know the password without telling you that this is the password. So that is something which is privacy. Now, that is something that we are trying to develop. And the recent acquisitions that we had, so we wanted to ensure that any type of zero knowledge proof which is there, or there are different ways in which you have to ensure privacy, and that is something that we have been doing. And this is where the primitive is going now, where if the enterprises are able to our first collaboration which was done with Eva and Nightfall is something which is where we want to use that big four audit firm in order to go out and use the solution to be deployed on various corporates as their solution on Polygon. Then we have other corporates also that we are talking to, other enterprises that we are wanting to onboard and everything, in order to ensure that they all are able to do all the transactions freely on the chain. This kind of zero knowledge proof is very much important, because you cannot go out and you cannot divulge your business secrets just to ensure your data is on a blockchain. So this is something which is very necessary. We found about it, or we learned about it very early, and that is why we deployed $1 billion fund, just because of that only, that this $1 billion fund is going to help us to maybe acquire or build all these solutions. So this is there. So now we have like three solutions, like I already told you, which is something which is Polygon Middle, Polygon Hermes, and then we have Polygon Zero, which we recently acquired. Polygon Avail is also there. So all these things are something which are going to help us in onboarding the enterprises, because in order to ensure that the whole ecosystem is developed on a blockchain and centralization is moved out, this is a very important narrative to go out.
Brian, anything you'd like to add to that, or any follow-up questions that you may have?
No, I think it's quite interesting. The focus on the enterprise space is something that a lot of that represents a great opportunity, because we see more and more enterprises, as they're able to adopt positions in the DeFi landscape. There's certainly people who are, from a compliance perspective, not able to participate, and also there's people who just have not explored it as yet. But there is a lot of exploration being undertaken by the enterprise space to understand really where the opportunities lie, because their real concern is DeFi by and large is unregulated. And because they've got regulatory and compliance matters, it's quite important for them to ensure that the steps they make into that space are sound, protected, and vetted, if you like, by the regulating environment. So it's quite, I think, a massive opportunity for Polygon to capture that market.
Absolutely.
All right.
I will say, I'll just
ahead.
mention one thing that I think is particularly relevant there. With bonded finance, we offer a highly relevant opportunity for enterprises and other institutional actors, whereby they may have US dollar deposits sitting in banks, not earning a lot of yield, not earning a lot of interest. And our lending platform allows those actors to quite simply once they've converted their US dollars into stable coins, they can then deposit their stable coins onto our platform to be lent out to borrowers. And that allows those lenders to achieve much better yield than they would typically be able to achieve in the traditional banking system. So I think there is quite a good intersection of our interests and some of the market that we're appealing to, which will be the institutional market and the market that Polygon is focusing on there. So I just thought that would be worthwhile mentioning.
And I'd like to ask Aishwary, unless you have something else to add there.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Lately, we see all the biggest protocols and projects in DeFi are jumping on Polygon, and Polygon has, rightfully so, been credited with somewhat carrying the Ethereum ecosystem throughout these times where scalability is not quite there. Layer twos, I mean, they're doing their job, but like, yeah, the main net of Ethereum is not cutting it for the demand that it currently has. So, as I said, Polygon has been credited with carrying the Ethereum ecosystem. Where do you see, or how do you see this ecosystem evolving as a whole? Since you may have a quite a unique perspective on this.
I think this whole ecosystem has to evolve, and as we move towards the beacon chain, which is ETH 2.0, when what will happen is we will be required even more. See, whenever we are talking about the transactions that are happening today, so the initial, you can say that the thing that we compared ourselves to was Visa and Mastercard, because we just believe that the financial system is going to be just created with this ecosystem. And then we used to compare that Visa and Mastercard have a TPS of, which is transaction speed per second, of like 65,000 transactions per second. And yeah, they generally process like 2,000 transactions per second, because that's how much the transaction burden is on them. But ultimately, when we started evolving, it was not just the finance. There are a lot of applications, as you know it today, which are being developed on top of on top of blockchain. And when these things are being developed, what happens is you need a high or a very large amount of transactions which needs to be processed, which is not just only about let's say financial transactions, and you compare yourselves with, let's say, Visa and Mastercard, and ensure that 65,000 transactions per second is enough for you. But when we go out and when we talk about E 2.0, the E 2.0 is basically targeting a 10,000 TPS per second, and with that 10,000 per TPS per second, you will need layer twos to again boost up and help the whole ecosystem to get more transactions out. I mean, today Polygon is doing more than, I think, 3 million some transactions per day. So those are the things that you need to go out and you need to understand that this is something where these transactions are going to be required. And that is where, when Polygon connects with ETH 2.0, we are targeting a TPS of 1 million transactions per second. Now, 1 million transactions per second is big enough to accommodate all types of activity that are
I
required
hope
on
so.
the any type of.
Sorry, that was just a joke. I hope so. Yeah, please continue.
No, no, that's my point. So that is something which we are looking at. The perspective that people have, that the layer twos and all these solutions are going to be useless in the future once ETH scales to 2.0. That's a wrong notion in the minds of people, because of this particular reason only, that ETH is getting at a good speed, but it still requires a lot more speed, a lot more transaction capacity, and that is what we are going to build for them.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever asked you this same question, Brian, and I think it's a great time to do so. How do you think the DeFi ecosystem will look like in a bunch of years? How do you, where do you think it's headed right now? Apart from what Aishwary said, that's obviously very necessary. That is like increasing the availability of it and the cost effectiveness of it, and just in general, well, everything that Polygon is building.
Yes, there's many, there's so many moving parts to that. What I'll say about scalability is there will be scaling solutions that will come to the fore, and it will solve the issues with throughput. There'll be different use cases in the, let's call it, DeFi ecosystem, but there'll be potentially non-financial applications there also. What I see is, so I don't see, there'll quite often be the limit to whatever prevailing capacities the networks have, but over time, innovation will ensure that that eventually gets addressed through either layer one or layer two, or however those solutions will be solved. But what I do see is this. I see the DeFi ecosystem, or more generally, the decentralized permissionless ecosystems, will begin to grow at an ever increasing pace. What we see is an opportunity for people who currently work for organizations that are under strict regulations and national guidelines and constraints in the way they operate. Individuals will now be able to operate as part of DAOs, distributed autonomous organizations, which are essentially just organizations working in this metaverse. And I say that not associated with Facebook's meta, I'm talking about in the general decentralized and permissionless ecosystem. Now, with that, there will be new solutions around identity, pseudonymous identity, to which you'll be able to attach your reputation and build up a reputation, but you won't be doxing yourself per se. So people will be operating and choosing and preferring to operate in these decentralized ecosystems because it offers them a lot more benefits than, or potentially, than working for an organization that has that's a regulated organization that has certain limits and constraints placed upon it by national regulations. So we'll see an acceleration of people beginning to work for DAOs. We'll see DAOs themselves, more and more will begin to arise, and then there'll be more and more inter-DAO deal making and contracts and engagement, so that more and more business will just be happening within this decentralized and permissionless ecosystem. We'll see whole new industries come into existence, which is, we'll see them mature. There's some very early arbitration facilities out there, but they, in my view, don't have the right balance of incentives to ensure that the best outcomes can be achieved. So I don't believe they're currently scalable. So we'll see quite a lot of innovation. We'll see quite a lot of evolution, and we'll see a lot of migration to this ecosystem. So it'll be quite interesting to see, because it does represent, in some respect, a bit of an existential threat for a state, whereby they can exact or they can apply force to individuals who are within their physical remit. But in the future, those individuals will be non-doxed. They'll have pseudonymous identities that will have reputation, and that reputation will allow DAOs to then go bestow grants on those individuals, which can be considered their salaries, because those individuals have had a history of being able to be trusted with those salaries. And it's quite interesting, all these DAOs don't just need technical people working for them. It's a whole cross-discipline, multidiscipline set of skills that are required to breathe life and to sustain these DAOs, which are community organizers, marketing people, graphic artists, lawyers, accountants, and of course developers and economists, or very particularly Austrian economists who are quite the antithesis to Keynesian economists. So that's just a bit of musing where I see it going. I think long term, or will continue to be really where the entire world moves. So we want to really take a big picture on this and understand that some of the solutions that we're bringing to market now are going to be core and foundation components that can be orchestrated into more far-ranging and flexible, higher value solutions for the growing number of participants that are going to be operating in this space. So I did go on, but there you go. That's just a couple of thoughts and musings on my part.
No, I think we all enjoyed that bit. This is one. Yeah, someone else is also reacting to that. Guys, if I may ask you, the emoji feature that's right here on the spaces is very useful for us just to get a bit of feedback as you're all silent as of now. So yeah, don't be afraid to use it. I'd like to ask Ishwari if he has anything to add to all of that, because, well, since we're getting futuristic, I reckon like everyone who works in crypto at least once a day just starts wondering about all the possibilities of these technologies. And thanks to everyone that's already using emojis.
I mean, one thing that I have seen is because I talk to a lot of projects on a daily basis, this space never ceases to amaze me. Every day, I think that okay, I've seen everything in the DeFi world or in the metaverse space and everything, and then there is a new project that comes in and says, "Hey, this is something that we are doing," and I'm like, God, how can you get these ideas, and where are you getting these ideas from? So, I mean, this space is something which is evolving at a speed. And the best part that I love about this space is you are valued based on the knowledge that you bring in on the table and the kind of hustle you want to do. I mean, if I look at myself, I don't want to, I can talk about myself basically. If I look at myself, I took around a year just to study, to learn, and how the things are evolving, what are the things that should be done. And then after that, I have taken humble steps. I have worked for people like for free. I have worked for because I wanted to learn. I basically chased people so that they can just give me a little bit of a work so that I can just get to know the space much better. And from there, it's not even a year when I started all these hustle. And today, when I see a lot of projects now evolving at this space, and me seeing myself at a space at a place where the work that I've done. Nobody cares about the certificates or the degrees that you bring on the table. Everybody cares about how you're evolving in the space, what is the idea that you're bringing on the table, and how much you're willing to hustle. And if that is something that you're bringing on the table, I think anyone and everyone has a place in this space. If you are someone who is just going out and saying, "Hey, I have a flashy degree, then get me a job," I basically there are tens of people who come on LinkedIn to me and say that, and honestly I never reply to them even, because that's something that I also got. And now it makes sense to me. Why? Because your degrees will not make you evolve in this space. Your talent or your skill set or whatever your hustle you're bringing on the table is going to make you or break you in this space.
I'd like to
And I think
second that.
also
I
a lot
think
of,
that's a really. Oops. Go ahead,
okay,
Carlos.
I think a lot of it also has to do with specific knowledge, right? So we're at a happy time for our industry where we just are lucky to be the very first in an industry that's going to take over or that's going to get implemented in most areas in some way, shape, or form. And so it's pretty cool that if you're armed with some sort of crypto or blockchain knowledge, you can just fast track your career in a different realm. Now, if you want to add what you were going to say, right?
Yeah, Carlos, I think that is a really good point. And to Ashwa, to your point, I think that's a really excellent story. And what I think comes out of that is for people, if they're interested in this whole new shape of humanity, really, this whole new shape of humanity that operates outside of a realm that is, well, let's be very kind and just describe it as the traditional financial system is somewhat rigged. It allows people to participate. So my suggestion to people who I meet is have a look at the projects, see what resonates with you. Some of them are really innovative. Some of them are crazy. Some of them take some time to get one's head around. Get involved, see what opportunities lie with that project. And whatever skill set you have, lay it on the table and see how it might be applied to those projects, and particularly the DAOs that are coming into existence. And seriously consider that in whatever next steps you may take in your career, or even to pursue this from a purely a philosophical perspective. But my point, I think there's so many great opportunities, and this ecosystem needs good, conscientious, capable, and willing participants.
That's a great point. I think sorry to cut you off there, Aishwary.
No,
I,
go ahead.
I think it's very important for projects in general to see enthusiasm from their communities and have people trying to offer something. I mean, we're at a time, like we said, that there is money flowing in and there is innovation flowing in. So like projects can afford to go to the market and look for professionals. But most of the projects in the space are doing some innovation are innovating in some way, and they're all bootstrapped, they're all looking for help, they're all full of people that are taking them too much. So I echo what Brian said completely. If you see a project that you think is interesting, definitely find a way that you can help them. Now over to you, Aishwary.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. When you look at the project, so I think the way I also, so I out of passion I teach blockchain. I've been doing that for over a year now, and one thing that I have seen is the way for anyone and everyone to get into this whole space is more about where you go out and first try to do something. So like what I suggest the people whom I teach is first you learn from it. Then it's not about just getting into that one learning. What you have to do is you have to get your hands dirty, and then you have to find out where you actually resonate with. It's not that you would be able to build the whole DeFi system all alone. It is something where you have to find what exactly is exciting you, what exactly is something which is putting you out there, and where you are not. So when I have to come online, maybe for a Twitter space at 10 p.m. at night, or maybe 5 a.m. in the morning, I've done that as well. And never ever I have felt like, oh my god, I have to get up at 5 to do this AMA or to do this Twitter space, because that is something that now I'm loving. And that is something, that passion, that if you're driven by passion, and most of the projects that I see in the space are driven by passion. And if you're driven by passion, it is not something where you will just get disheartened if someone says, hey, this is not a worthy project, you need to work harder. This is where you will pick up yourself and you will work harder to get into that space, and to get into and to build all those things which are very much important. And the best way for you is basically get into a DAO. I mean, definitely, I've been helping in building the Polygon ecosystem DAO, and I see, and if the way we are shaping it, the way we are giving out the opportunities, bankless is another one where you can just go out and do some work, or maybe see what exactly interests you. And you'll see that, okay, this is something I am a finance guy, and I don't do literally anything that is related to finance today. And I've got those degrees which are completely telling me that I'm a financial beast. But I don't find that interest in me anymore. So I am doing something which I am liking. And the best part about DAOs is they do not care what exactly is something that you want to bring in. They'll ask you what exactly is your interest, and they'll tell you, okay, if you're interested in this thing, if you're interested in that thing, go ahead, join these guilds, join these pages, and see what is happening, and then contribute there. I mean, what exactly does a individual want more, when anything that he's dreaming of, all these people are actually, if they are something which are worthwhile for the time of others as well, they're actually funding it, they're actually letting him do it. And not just letting him do it, they're also providing help to you to go out and do it. I mean, how can be an environment more inclusive? I cannot find any more thing that to add in order to make the whole ecosystem of blockchain and crypto more inclusive in that scenario.
I saw for a second there that Constantine unmuted himself. So yeah, if you want to say hi, Constantine, you're welcome. I know it's a bit early where you are, so if you don't, it's okay.
Hello, everyone, and nice to see you all here. As Brian has touched the DAO subject, I wanted to ask you to provide his vision on the DAO implementation on bonded finance, as Aishwary has already told us about DAO implementation on Polygon network.
Well, what can I mention there? There's a lot happening. There's a lot of evolution. I'm involved with another DAO at the moment. And so there's a lot of learning of good ways and practical ways to execute voting and how to establish forums and all the mechanisms that need to be established around a good, effective DAO and its operations, not just its governance. And this includes, for example, the staking platforms for user interfaces to be on IPFS and for discourse servers to be on IPFS, so that there is as much uncensorability built into these DAOs as possible. So there's probably not a lot I can talk to at the moment about all of that, because we are really focusing on getting the core product out there. It's currently on testnet, and extending upon that with our next release product, so that which is in design and development is commencing. So the DAO aspect is something that we're monitoring, and we are putting designs together, if you like, for the best way to do that. So at this point, it's a really wide-ranging set of disciplines that come into shaping that DAO appropriately. And we'll make further announcements about that as time goes by. So that's, I think, what I can say. It doesn't give a lot of detail, but it's kind of where things are standing at the moment with our DAO. So there's strong intention, there's the right research going in, there's a right engagement with other DAOs, as well as understanding the various technology options that best enable DAO operations.
Thank you for that. And we're a bit pressed by time, so I'd like us to move to questions from the audience, both for Brian, Konstantin, me, Aishwary, whoever you may want to answer your question, just let us know, and you can forward to them. We have our first requester to speak, so I'll just approve you and you can ask us your question. Anyone else that may want to ask a question, please also request. If there's a lot, I will select a random. If not, just let us know. There are also some questions on our Telegram chat, so if no one wants to ask a question directly here, I'll read it out. CRPMBA, you're approved to speak. You may ask your question, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Fantastic.
Yes,
welcome.
we can.
Great spaces tonight, highly informative. I enjoyed what I heard. My question is for, and I forgive my pronunciation, Aisha, or Aisha.
Ash, you can call me Ash.
Very good. It's a twofold question. The first question is, I know you mentioned about Polygon reaching a point where there would be ideally 1 million transactions per second, I believe you said. One, how far away are we from that? And then two, a great story on how you got into the crypto space and how it's not about fancy degrees and how you hustled. I was curious if you had any openings where a hustler like me with the fancy degrees would be willing to work for you for free, 16 hours a day, as many days as you want. And if that option is available, or you could let me know. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think the first thing that I said was, so it is 1 million transactions on the Ethereum ecosystem along with Polygon is something that I said. And that is something I think we will be able to achieve as soon as the beacon chain is ready for full deployment. And that will take, I think, at least by the end of 2023. So most probably by early 2024, we should be seeing this kind of transactional speed, though those transactions will not be there. If we talk about 1 million transactions per second, that's like billions of transactions per second. I think we still need to develop that ecosystem to reach that level, but yeah, the speed will be available. And surely I think once we deploy and more solutions on board us, that is something that is the capacity, I would say, that we would be evolving with. And your second thing that you've asked for is getting a role. Definitely you can DM me and let's see where we can fit you in the team. We have a few openings that are there, and we are very, very much looking out for people who can passionately work. So definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. Great information. Thanks, guys. I'll DM you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for your question. And well, if anyone wanted to complain that this space did nothing, someone just got a job. So thank you very much, everyone, for that. And we have our next invited speaker. So welcome. Who's your question for? What would you like to ask?
Dude wants to work for free when Discord managers of ghosted NFT projects are making 100K a year. Dude, come on.
You
Hi.
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Number one, when are you launching mainnet? Ha ha ha. Number two, how is Matic going to tie into this project for the long term? I'm really curious. I don't know if you guys talked about that. I went in and out, but
Okay, I
Okay,
think that
so
would go for Brian mostly. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so this project, presumably you're referring to bonded finance there. The way I see it tying in a couple of ways or a few ways. First of all, bonded finance is looking to list the Matic token. So that allows Matic token holders to exercise their or deploy their capital so they can take stablecoin loans and go and deploy those elsewhere in the DeFi ecosystem in whichever way they like. That's one, and that's the initial aspect of our partnership. I see quite potentially further aspects of integration and leveraging that partnership. And those will be cross-chain integration, and particularly what that means is either allowing asset holders on the Polygon network to stake their assets as collateral to take loans out on the Ethereum-based bonded finance platform, or also for lenders on the Polygon network to stake their lending assets so they can achieve yield better than they could if they had those US dollar holdings in a bank. So they're some of the first integration aspects. Other integration aspects would be the bonded finance ports more wholly, if you like, to the Polygon network. So there are a couple of options and opportunities there. And you may not have caught earlier on in this discussion, we're looking at the best ways to do that and best ways to achieve that that are going to be market driven. So given there is quite a bit of activity in the Polygon space, that's going to be one area of great interest for us. So again, that's all part of our general roadmap, and we will in time tie that down to specific deliverables with specific dates, with specific scope to it, based on those various set of options I mentioned. Hope that answers your question.
sure. But I mean, in terms of like, okay, let's look at like ETHLand. I actually just talked to whoever's running the More Twitter. They DM'd me and asked me some questions, but you know, we've seen More have basically zero volume, zero TVL. And I straight up told whoever was DMing me from More, I said, look, man, you guys gotta, you're not following the trends. You gotta jump on metaverse stuff. You gotta jump on NFT stuff. You have to make, from what I've seen for being in the space for 6 or 7 years, projects, you know, you can give shitcoins an APY, and that's great, but you know, whales and marketers aren't going to take to this unless they think the token can 500 times. Like, how are you going to wrap in single-sided staking and you know, there's dozens and dozens of use cases you guys could actually do that, you know, in my opinion, should have been launched 6 months ago. But, you know, how are you going to make the bonded finance token take off from merely a spec perspective? Because that's, I mean, that's what's going to bring TVL. That's what's going to bring majors taking you seriously, FTX, all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're quite right. There's various different players who look at the DeFi space for different purposes, and we kind of span a couple of those. And something I mentioned a little earlier was speculative coin holders, where they're looking for the upside. They can deploy their capital, get loans, and then be more active, if you like, in the DeFi ecosystem, rather than just having their speculative capital sit there and waiting for number to go up. So that's one side, and that's very different also to the institutional side, where we're offering something to people who just traditionally would be holding US dollar holdings, and it gives them another option. But you're quite right. There are a whole host of new paradigms coming to existence, like the NFT space and so forth in this space. How we integrate with that, I think there is going to be two ways we go about it. One will be, we'll drive some of that. We'll include it in our roadmap, and we'll have various things that help facilitate that cross-chain integration, embedded insurance, and so forth. And the other way will be through the composability of our platform. So people can begin to use this, or other projects can begin to use the core capabilities that we have in place. And they can use that within, it might be a more imaginative dashboard or orchestrated solution that offers institutional customers savings with insurance, with foreign exchange exposure or hedging, and with a small portfolio or allocation to speculative portfolios, integration with fund management systems, so people can hold real world stock portfolios also in synthetic forms. So that's kind of where I see things going. So I think that generally addresses some of the points that you raise. But with all of this, there will be assessing it as we go on to find out really what the market is demanding and how we can deliver something. So that's our view.
Okay, I'll just like to add to that from the bonded finance perspective before moving on to a question from someone on the Telegram chat. That of course the primary lending platform is just the first instance of the whole ecosystem that bonded finance aims to be. You can read more about the whole implementation on the white paper, but of course we're looking at the basically an MVP here. So I know people hate to get this answer, but in the end of the day, you gotta be patient, because once one product is successfully launched, then we get access to more tools to continue to bring the rest of the ecosystem out. I'll read the next question, which is for Aishwary. It comes from Patrick from our Telegram chat, and it says, when Polygon rebranded from Matic last year, I seen a massive and impressive advertising campaign. And there, the market cap doing, sorry, I'm trying to fix the grammar as I speak, and their market cap did a 50x. Was the rebrand for marketing reasons? I thought this was pretty interesting because, well, we are undergoing a rebrand as well, and it'll be great to hear more from like the inside of why Matic decided to go on to become Polygon.
I think that was not the reason. The reason why we rebranded to Polygon was because we started as a plasma layer, and when Matic was Matic had just one use case, which was just to be a plasma layer for the Ethereum ecosystem. And then when we onboarded Mihailo, there were a lot of things. So he was from the Ethereum Foundation, I would say. And then what happened was there were a lot of things that we wanted to bring on board, which we envisioned, and that's why we rebranded as Polygon, because Polygon is basically where we are doing multiple things, and Matic becomes one of the Matic plasma chain, that plasma layer that we have, that becomes one of the use cases. So we wanted to outgrow that. Just we have just one use case. We wanted to create an ecosystem which was not just one thing, which was just the plasma layer, and that is why we rebranded. And then if you see, after rebranding, it was not the rebranding that gave us a 50x. It was the host of announcements and the collaborations that we declared at the point of time, saying that okay, these are the things that we are bringing bringing. These are the things that we're going to build. We went out and created a whole POS chain, and then we also tried to create a lot of other narratives and a lot of other things on top of Polygon, and that is the reason why we rebranded, because the vision and the aim just got way bigger. So that was the reason why we rebranded.
Rebranding does not only involve, changing pixels. It involves a token swap and communication with exchanges and a lot of technical stuff besides the design only ones. So when it will be time, it will be announced, but it is sooner when it was any time earlier.
Okay, thanks. Cool.
I think it's about time. We just want to thank everyone for coming along, and thanks, Doug, for your questions there. I think, Aishwary, thanks so much for coming along and giving us insight into everything that's happening in your space there. If anyone has general questions, of course, there's various forums where you can contact us. Keep your eye on announcements on Twitter, and let's progress this space. And if anyone has any general questions about what's happened here, hit up some of the guys DM, and we'll see if we can respond to anything and give people further insight.
Absolutely.
Well, everyone, thank you very much for coming along today, and yeah, watch this space. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone. Hope you can hear this. Okay, bye-bye.